watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome back to the esteemed morning show, Morning at NTV. My name is Romeo Busukot. Of course, I would like to highlight the good work being done by the people behind the scenes. My studio director, that is Mr. Emmanuel Teko, my camera person, Mr. Joseph, producers Collins in Amuge. Very good morning to you, sir. I see you, Arafat. Yes, very good morning to you, sir. The whole technical team, the engineers behind, they would like to, shine, put a spotlight on the good work that you are doing for us right here. And of course, when I did break off, I wanted to shine a light on all the journalists wherever you are. Imagine if there was a war within Uganda and an American journalist came to Uganda here and he died. He would be the first person to be, on a big headline, a big byline. Journalist dies in Uganda. But during that encounter, how many would have died during that war? What I'm saying is, we are talking about Brent Renault in Ukraine dying and also Benjamin Hall being injured. But how many of the local journalists in Ukraine have been injured and died? That's why I would like to shine a light on those individuals who are operating in the shadows, that you're doing great work. Please do not stop. The world needs this information. Yes, let's move away from that. I do have Jane Amuge. She is the Operations Director at the Uhuru Institute for Social Development. We'd like to talk about cooperative identity and resilience in that regard. They've been orchestrating research in the same field. So how best can we ensure that cooperatives are a success in Uganda? Why did they die to begin with? They were thriving in the 1970s. And of course, the war culminated 1981 up to 1986. They died, if you will. When President Museveni came into power, there was a slight revival, but then it was slow. So we'd like to talk about what kind of research the Uhuru Institute for Social Development has been able to put their hands on, and what kind of solutions or recommendations they have for the central government for the same to become a success. Jane Amuge is already here with us. Very good morning.
Good morning.
Corporate identity and resilience, a very, very compelling subject. Bring us up to speed with the research that you actually mounted over this.
Good morning, viewers and listeners. Thank you very much for hosting us. Uhuru is very excited that today we launch a research report, but also a cooperative resilience measurement index.
Indeed.
Cooperatives have never died. I want to correct that.
Indeed.
Cooperatives declined or some collapsed, and there's been efforts across board to enable these cooperatives to be revitalized. And so
you can give us a brief history of these cooperatives back in the day. Why was there a slight decline and so forth, so that we could get a clear overview of what we are dealing with right now in 2022?
And I'm glad that today we discuss resilience, which is really the center of our research. Cooperatives have been affected by so many things. In the colonial days, cooperatives were more like nudged on the locals.
I see.
Mainly because the colonialists wanted raw materials for their factories and industries. But also, along the way, the black Ugandan or African learned that, we've been cooperating all this time. We don't need to be policed to cooperate. So they only needed to understand how formal cooperatives work, with systems that they can export, they can be able to gin, they can be able to hull coffee, and be able to do export trade. So when cooperatives thrived between 1952, when the Cooperative Ordinance was enacted, it was because there was a lot of production of agricultural materials that was needed by those industries. And that went on until the first government, the independence government, which was very socialist in nature. Socialist because they had this opportunity that the black person is now taking leadership. And so this leadership needed to continue the vibrance of the pre-colonial pressures that they had as the African person. I'll just give you a bit of preamble. Before 1952, cooperatives were not able to have bank accounts. If you're a black person, you are not supposed to be having a bank account. And then also they were not able to gin their own cotton, neither were they able to hull their coffee.
So how would they transact money in that regard if they are not being held to
it was a strategy to keep the black person behind, while the Indian community and the Europeans actually made a kill of all their labor.
So they were never paid for their
They
hard
were
labor.
paid, but peanuts.
I
It
see.
was. It's even like now. If you produce raw materials, I think you've been
Without value
following
addition.
up on the ICO discussion,
Indeed.
where Uganda has sort of decided to suspend its membership, and all that is because what is the value that we, the producers, we, the collective coffee producers or cotton producers, are getting for all the hard work that there is?
Coffee beans are leaving this country in droves.
Exactly. So that was really the precursor at the
Indeed.
time. So when the colonial government gave power to the independent government, it was then easier for the black person to get more involved. Now, in that involvement, a lot happened that was positive. There's a lot more production. More Ugandans were employed by the cooperative movement.
Indeed.
By 1970, twice the number of people employed, or cooperatives were employing, twice the size of what government was employing,
Indeed.
which was very important. But also, the way in which young people today look for jobs with NTV, MTN, in the days it was in a
White-collar
cooperative. Everybody was looking forward to being a cooperative general manager, looking forward to, to run this big business.
That's where the money
Cooperatives
was.
were vibrant. But let's come to today. And that's where the resilience comes in.
Before we come to today, we are still, they're still giving us a history lecture. What went wrong then?
Okay. So then there was 1970, 1971, there was a coup. Now, with the coup happening, a lot of cooperative leaders were killed.
Indeed.
And they were murdered. Others had to run into exile.
The government was threatened over their wealth?
Not necessarily. Interestingly, in the 70s and the late 60s, a lot of the politicians were in cooperatives.
Indeed.
They had used cooperatives as a launching pad. Just as I see some of that happening now, the chairman of Bugisu Cooperative Union is a politician.
I see.
The chairman of Teso Cooperative Union is now a politician. The chairman of Lao Cooperative Union is a politician. So I'm not sure whether we are not having that politicians using.
So they use them for
cooperatives.
political mileage then, like they are using it for the same now.
Perhaps right now we're
Indeed.
yet to investigate
Perhaps,
that.
that's a good one.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
So that death happened, but also when there was economic embargo, a lot happened to the cooperatives. Remember,
Because of the coup.
Exactly.
Idi
So-
Amin. Okay.
Exactly. So that really distorted the market forces. If you were exporting coffee before, sort of the thing that is happening to Russia right now,
Indeed.
you can't export your goods. You have been relying on export business, so things have to happen. Banks were not comfortable lending to the African. So that's when SACCOs, apparently SACCOs grew tremendously during Amin's government. Why? Because people had to resort into financial cooperatives to be able to leverage off affordable credit.
I see.
And so during Amin's government also is when we see the Uganda Cooperative Transport Union being formed and being vibrant. Why? Because transport was a real issue.
Indeed.
So UKTU was providing not only goods transport but also passenger transport, which was very good. We also saw the rise of the insurance cooperative, which again was to provide alternative insurance services to the market. So thereafter, Uganda has been in a very unstable situation.
Indeed.
After Amin, then there is the Bote II government coming in, fighting in the Luwero, and the Luwero triangle fight was the theater in which cooperatives lost a lot.
Indeed. Because
And
this was the agricultural hub of the
That
country.
was the agricultural hub, but also the current government actually went into agreement with some of these cooperatives to finance the war. And that is why right now there is compensation. Cooperatives like Masaka Cooperative Union were able to go into negotiation with, by then, rebels, so that they would see the change that they were also seeking for. You find that
So that drained their financial
exactly
chest.
beyond even the agreements, there was actually theft and looting.
I see.
So that is how the cooperative started declining.
Indeed.
Now, when President Museveni came to power, the economy was stressed. There's no money. We tried barter trade, it didn't work. We tried so many things until the IMF came and said, you know what, guys? You need to privatize. You need to liberalize. Now, that was the last nail
in the coffin.
Exactly. Because then you find cooperatives had benefited a lot from subsidies. They were sort of run like parastatals, especially in the Bote II government. Why? Because of the recovery mission that the government had at the time. So during that point in time when President Museveni came, there was no money, cooperatives were stressed, but more so with this IMF and Bretton Woods policy saying liberalize. Then the coffee marketing boards then get dismantled, the cotton marketing boards then get dismantled, Cooperative Bank is closed in 1999, then the farmers are stuck and have no source of financing. So it continues, and as you can imagine, the economy is very donor dependent.
Indeed.
As I speak. Almost all sectors of the economy in some way are actually intertwined in this IMF, World Bank projectization that is happening in the country. So cooperatives have remained resilient. Now, resilience is different from sustainability.
Indeed.
You can be strong, but when certain very vital elements that keep you healthy are weak.
Indeed.
So cooperatives have remained. Why? Because the human being is strong, is always inclined towards collaboration.
Because cooperatives are at the heart of the human being.
Exactly.
So if the human being is in existence, cooperatives will actually
we will always
be
cooperate.
resilient.
Why? Because there are always problems. You will always need money. You will always need labor. You will always need transport, something. And alone, you cannot achieve much.
Indeed.
That's why almost every African language has a saying that when you work together, you'll reach where you're going.
Indeed.
If you work faster, you actually will not reach the way that ideally you would have.
So you'd be able to achieve
together.
tremendously, you know, something that you weren't able to achieve alone.
Exactly.
In a group. Okay, go ahead.
So when we talk resilience, we don't only talk about resilience today, but we're talking about sustainable resilience.
Indeed.
So in 2020, we started a research which was based on two things. One, cooperatives do not have a reliable digital registry.
Indeed.
When you go to the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, there are files, cooperatives that have been registered. But it might take you time to get the nitty-gritty details on the performance of the cooperative. If President Museveni woke up and said, you know what, Ministry of Trade, I would like to have a status report on on all cooperatives in Uganda. What is their contribution to the economy? Why is it that they're behaving in the way they would be? Yes, there would be a report.
Your pointers allude to the fact that maybe government is not interested in the revival over these cooperatives. Would that be right? An assessment?
I would say that government's behavior or interest it's sort of mild. If I'm to quantify,
Indeed.
there would be better interventions that government would put in place.
Because when you look at the parish development model, you're looking at something that has a cooperative model embedded in it. Instead of, because what we would have expected if government really cared about cooperatives and they knew how efficient they were, would have been, you know, moves to expedite the revival of the cooperatives and make them stronger. But what we see was a dilution of the same, and they just came up with a new name, which was parish development model, but based on the tenets of all the values of the cooperative model that we're talking about right now.
Yes, when government then comes in with the parish development model, first of all, the parish development model is not a new thing. Government has actually been intervening at the parish. But at this level, I see government trying to consolidate. Now, whether forming new cooperatives to support the parish development model is the right thing, that's another subject for, a subject for another day. Because as I mentioned, there are already 30,000 registered cooperatives. And I'm sure that each of these parishes or villages has some sort of cooperative that would be strengthened to be able to take advantage of the opportunities. Look at Amuge. Amuge cooperatives were registered. Some of them are alive, others are dead. Now, I'm told there are new parish development model cooperatives being registered. Whether they survive or they die is also another story.
What killed the Amuge cooperatives to begin with?
Some of the ones that have died because they are not organic. A cooperative, by definition, is a voluntary association of persons united to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs.
Indeed.
Now, if somebody comes and tells you to be able to access this money, get a few friends of yours and then access this money, that voluntarism is going to be disturbed. Why? Because your target is the money, not so much the bond. Why did the 30 people come together to register the cooperatives? To get the money. Now, in cooperatives, it's not just about money. It's about bond. What is that brings you together? It's about character. It's about the morals of the people that you find yourself with. Now, if you find yourself with 30 others who, for some convenient reason, you form to access money, then you're bound to fight. First of all, why? You don't know them. You don't know why exactly they joined the cooperative, if beyond money. You also don't know where they're going. So if you organically come together with 30 of your colleagues here at NTV and form the cooperative, there would be purpose. A purpose that defines you.
A common identity.
A common identity.
Not a situation whereby we are in a group, but Romeo Busiku, wants to veer into car dealership. Another person wants agriculture. Another person wants, I want to extend water to some areas. Now, we want to work on the expedite, to work on maybe a road and something. So we have different identities. We have different plans.
Different values.
So we can't use this money for a common goal, which is non-existent.
If you're in a financial cooperative, but still
a circle.
A circle. Yeah, you may actually, if you're in different industries. What is important is that beyond the money, what are those things that bring you together? Is it that maybe you're people that believe in integrity?
All right.
Is it that you're people that believe in transforming your country so that everything that you do actually pushes you to the direction that you're going?
So identity is really important.
Identity actually caters for three things. One, the traditional values of cooperatives. And key amongst them is self-responsibility. If you're told to form a cooperative, it is not your initiative. You were beckoned to form the cooperative. Self-responsibility means that out of your own initiative, out of your own desire, you actually went and came up with the idea and formed the cooperative. The other is self-help, that you will use local resources to change to turn your life around to the positive end. But we have seen situations where we are actually on a begging trend.
We are on a begging trend?
Yes. People are waiting for government. Everyone says to Saba government to Yambe. People are going to school to learn how to write proposals to beg donors. Everybody is begging. Now, in a cooperative, we are saying, if you have land, plow the land, plant your coffee, export it. Self-help.
We'll give you money.
Not really. You can access credit. You can buy in shares in the cooperative. But if imagine, Romeo, if your business was 100% funded by someone, and you didn't put anything, and you're a person who has no integrity, you'll steal that money. Why?
Because it's not your sweat. So I see where you're going.
Exactly. So self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equity, equality, solidarity, and democracy. Those are traditional values of cooperatives. Whether people have solidarity in their cooperatives is another conversation we'll be having in the day. But then there are the ethical values that guide cooperatives.
Which are?
Most important of them is honesty. This country at the moment lacks a culture of honesty.
Without honesty, there's no trust.
Everyone is almost wanting to steal. You bring someone in your business, they want to steal. Funirawa. Everyone is on, what can I get for myself? A few people have integrity. But if you look at the culture of the cooperatives today, the reflection of the rot in the society called Uganda. People are stealing. People are not forward thinking. So honesty is very key. The other one is social responsibility. Is your business destroying the environment? We just recently saw NEMA trying to ask Mera not to put sand in the lake. Some of the cooperatives might find themselves in businesses that compromise the natural environment, that compromise health.
Sand mining.
Exactly. Or that you find yourself using very wrong pesticides. You know, cancer is on the rise. Why? Some of our farmers are using the wrong pesticides and herbicides. Now, that is not social responsibility. When you're in a cooperative, you're expected to think about the consumers, the community that you live in, take care of the environment, plant trees, give back to the community. Social responsibility is another very
If you're doing agriculture, do not encroach on the wetlands.
Thank you. You know, that is social responsibility. The other element of ethics is openness.
All right.
How many times do you go to your cooperative and have an AGM with fraudulent minutes? We have seen cooperative leaders actually forge minutes. And then the poor farmer that is a member of this cooperative only goes into node. Some of them actually present wrong audit accounts.
Indeed.
So you find that, you know, these guys are kept waiting, they're so hungry, they come, and politicians also come to some of these AGMs, say a lot of nothing,
Indeed.
and people are waiting on hungry stomachs. So when the auditor comes, remember he's speaking a language of debit and credit.
Indeed.
Now you have
Jargon.
to convince me if your judge knows debit and credit.
Of course, the
These are
jargon
the
will be
people
lost in
that-
there.
Exactly, and these are the people that belong to cooperatives.
Layman's language is
Exactly. Can it be simplified? Can it be authentic audit? Who is doing your audit? Is this audit going to open up on what is exactly happening in cooperatives? There are scandals that we see happening in the cooperative movement. Why? Members don't know what's happening there, but they also have a role to play.
That is a recipe for disaster, because when it comes to cooperatives, the main tenet of cooperatives is that it brings them together. It gives you the ownership of the whole cooperative and the whole business model that you are working on. But what you're telling us is in contrast of what we do expect. Is this the reality for all the 30,000 or majority of the cooperatives within this country?
I would say majority, not of all the 30,000. And that is why we as Uhuru Institute and many other players, cooperative unions, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, there is all this effort to say, you know what, we need to change. We need to change because we are going to overturn. If we don't do that, and our country, through the National Development Plan 3, is saying cooperatives are the vehicle for socio-economic transformation, these cooperatives need to be healthy. They need to know where they're going. So our discussion on resilience, therefore, is pegged on the cooperative traditional values, on the ethical values, and the principles of cooperatives. Now, these principles are very important, but they are not important without these values. For instance, we've talked about voluntary and open membership, that anyone can actually join a cooperative for as long as they have that bond we talked about. That you should not be excluding people based on disability or based on age. A cooperative should be able to receive and take advantage of the opportunities that there is. But also there is a member economic participation. That when you're in a cooperative, you're not going to be waiting for the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development, or right now the Ministry of Local Government, to be sending for you money. You should be saying, okay, what do we have? If we get a grant, this grant is only going to push us, but it's not going to be the main thing. The other is democratic member control. We have individuals, Romeo, you could be in a cooperative and you are the guy, you know. If you don't nod, the cooperative doesn't nod. Everybody is waiting for Chairman Romeo.
Indeed.
We have people that have taken over this cooperative.
Demigods within the cooperative.
Exactly. Then we have autonomy and independence. But we see the hand of government. We see the hand of donors. And this hand is not just a supportive hand, but it's a directive arm.
Do this, do that. It's a top to bottom approach, not bottom up.
And
This is
yet-
what we want to do. Please fund us.
Exactly. A funder will tell you, you know, we're giving you money in climate change. So you find a cooperative trying to implement a project in climate change. It's not bad, but is that where you want it to
And
go?
is it their identity? This is Jane Amuge, Operations Director, Uhuru Institute for Socio-Development. And of course, we are still continuing with this conversation, but why not take a breather and return shortly? Be working on that cup of coffee or Minute Maid, if you will, as we return shortly from these messages. Keep around.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us right here on Morning at NTV. My name is Romeo Busika, and of course I still do have Jane Amuge. She is the Operations Director at the Uhuru Institute for Socio-Development. We're talking about cooperative identity and also resilience in that regard. Jane Amuge, we're talking about some of the challenges that befell these cooperatives in the last 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. You mentioned a few: identity, finances, and so forth. Was COVID-19 as a pandemic also a problem for these cooperatives?
Yeah, that's a recent thing. COVID impacted on everyone. When you look
ability
at
to assemble and so forth, you know,
ability
come
to
together.
assemble, also trade, in the event that you're exporting,
Indeed.
then you find that the movement is sort of restricted,
Yeah.
but then along the way, certain pathways were open for the cooperatives. But more to that, people fell sick. You find a manager is in ICU. And remember, I already mentioned to you that some of these leaders take over the cooperatives.
So the person is using that money for their medication.
Not necessarily, but they're the main guy making the decision. And that guy is in ICU for 3 weeks, you know. But beyond that, I think COVID found us with certain existential issues within the cooperatives. One is that a number of the cooperatives are undercapitalized. A lot of them are using either donor money or they're just broke. So there is hardly business happening in the cooperative. You know, you register your business, it is doing something that resembles a business.
Yes.
But actually, when you interrogate, you start wondering where this business is going to take the community that belongs to it. The other thing that I see that already existed in cooperatives was that while government has put in place opportunity for financing through the Microfinance Support Center, UDB, and all this infrastructure, most of the cooperatives are not ready to take advantage of some of this money that is there. Most of them don't have strategic plans, don't have business plans. Most of them don't have very clear records, which is why we have actually come up with the Cooperative Resilience Index. The Cooperative Resilience Measurement Index is a tool that is enabling cooperatives to be able, one, to use a system we've developed as well called Profiler, one, to capture data digitally. Two is to monitor progress within the cooperative. That as you'll come to Sheraton, you'll be able to see that you can know where a cooperative was in January last year, and then you'll also be able to relate that status with the one of 2022 January.
Data is important for planning.
Exactly. So data is very key for us. Data is key for NPA. Data is key for all the ministries that, you know, we are operating a multi-sector economy where the Ministry of Gender does business together with the Ministry of Trade, local government. If imagine we have this centralized database that can be that data can be mined, and we can get useful reports for decision support.
I see where you're going with this, Jane Amuge, because if government really cared about the revival of cooperatives, they should be the ones expediting this, the Cooperative Resilience Measurement Index, to see to it how many have thrived, how many are struggling, how do we help them? You understand? But the fact that they are not doing that, it seems like they would like the status quo pretty much to be where it is. What do you think is the problem with no goodwill coming in from the politicians? Is it what we saw in 1970s when the cooperatives actually financed the rebels in that regard? Now, I was talking about the government here being afraid of the strength of these cooperatives, being united, and the ability to actually fend for their own decisions.
I see government in a situation where its priorities need to be reorganized. At least I know that the Ministry of Trade is working on a digital system, and I think it's still in the theory. I haven't yet seen the actual practice, but I know that there are conversations. There have been attempts at small projects here and there, but the grand digitalized program that the Ministry of Trade is working on I'm yet to appreciate it. But it's not too late. Government can partner with us in a private-public partnership so that without reinventing the wheel, they actually can join us and we take advantage of what we have already done. So at the Uhuru Institute, we believe that everyone has a role to play in transforming this country. So I believe that today we'll be having government officials from Ministry of Finance, local government, and trade. And I think this is the beginning of a conversation. A conversation that should take us to action and take us to the change that we want to see.
Speaking of action, Jane Amuge, and of course we're talking about what is being done to actually promote the cooperative development right here in Uganda. And of course, one of those models, you're actually expediting a conversation today at Sheraton Hotel. But then what other measures are you looking at as the Uhuru Institute for Social Change? What are you going to be using this research for to ensure that you promote cooperatives within this country?
One, the tool we've developed is already being used by cooperatives. And we've seen tremendous change in the cooperatives that are able to profile their members. You cannot claim membership of 30,000 people who you don't know.
Indeed.
Some of these cooperatives are so huge that they don't even know their members. And we are saying the profiler tool is available for any cooperative in Uganda, in Kenya, Zambia, Ghana to actually be able to use. Why? It's on cloud. Now, that is one. The other thing is, now that you've profiled your cooperatives, you're able to report. If any bank wanted to know who your members are and how they are doing, you're able to send a quick report from the profiler system. If government wanted to know how the cooperative is, you only use the system to generate this data. So I'm hoping that as we meet today, we will come up with a framework for partnership that can see the cooperative profiler and the Cooperative Resilience Measurement Index actually being adopted by the government of Uganda to steer the parish development model and any other efforts towards inclusive socioeconomic development.
And of course, in tandem, how will this research help us develop the Amuge program and also parish development model? How are you going to be using this research?
Data. The Amuge circles can now use the Resilience Index to see how they have progressed from the time they accessed this money that was given by government as a revolving fund. What change has happened and what do they need to take care of so that they remain strong and sustainable? So once they have the profiler in place and government has the data in place, government can plan better. Do you know that there is so much theoretical planning in certain aspects?
Without data or evidence.
Exactly. I've seen Minister Ogwang traveling around the country and is shocked that certain things are not happening right with the programs of government.
And we're also shocked that he's shocked.
Well, you know, why is a minister shocked that nothing is happening the way that he wants it?
Lack of data.
Exactly. Lack of data and reliable real-time data.
Thank you.
The profiler should be able to do that, and the Cooperative Resilience Index should be able to give us that traction.
And of course, look out for that conversation, largely held by the Uhuru Institute for Social Change. Whom else is going to be there at the Sheraton? I do only know about Fred Muhumuza, very good economist.
Okay, first of all, we are partnering with Busara Center for Behavioral Economics, our research partners in Nairobi, and also being supported by the Open Society Foundation that is looking to see how Ugandans can actually get better. But on the panel is myself, Dr. Muhumuza, and my co-researcher James Kenga, and many other participants from the Ministry of Finance, local government, trade, cooperatives from upcountry, cooperatives from the globe. We have a whole team from the University of Cape Town that will be getting online and having conversation. Teams from the International Cooperative Alliance, Africa office, and the Geneva office. So today we are talking cooperatives.
We are talking cooperatives today, and of course, let me use an example that is, near home. We do have a financial cooperative right here at the NMG, Monitor Corp. Yes, we do put their money. If I have some 2 million with them, I can actually remove 4 million. So
what are your interest rates?
Indeed, 1%. You wouldn't mean 1% every month. Yes, that is 12% for a full year.
Fair enough.
It's really, really fair. So, in tandem, I would like the viewer who is watching right now to know the difference between a financial cooperative and also, a cooperative business model. What is the difference? So, a SACCO and a cooperative.
Everyone prefers to call all cooperative SACCOs, and we really struggle with us, those of us that are in the industry. A SACCO is a savings and credit cooperative organization, which is a cooperative business type. Its work is to provide savings, opportunity, and credit.
Thank you.
And now they are even able to do insurance if they got into agency or anything.
And on the other side.
Exactly. So cooperatives are in all sectors of the economy.
They can fuse
mining,
both.
forestry, agriculture, energy. Did you know that we have energy cooperatives?
We do, yes.
Yeah. So we have cooperatives in almost all sectors.
All right. And if you do want to know more about cooperatives in Uganda and what is being done to ensure resilience and also, many of the factors we've mentioned here, the fact that identity goes a long way in helping, muscle up these cooperatives within the country. Thank you so much.
Including training
training and so much.
Yes, training and education of this cooperative.
Indeed. Jane Amuge, she is the Operations Director, Uhuru Institute for Social Change. Thank you so much for coming through. For social development. We shall seek for your services in the near future after this, session that you're going to be holding today at the Sheraton, so that we can get some kind of precedence in that regard.
Thank you very much.
Jane Amuge again, Operations Director, Uhuru Institute for Social Development. That conversation has been put to rest. We do have Mr. Gilbert Sendugwa. Well, Gilbert Sendugwa is the Executive Director for the Africa Freedom of Information Center, and we'd like to talk about that conversation and a lot more. With the current digitalization in Africa, many governments are procuring digital technology systems like biometric, machines, facial technology. So how do those technologies adversely impact the people? That's a conversation we're having shortly after this break with Gilbert. We'll be right back.
You're watching Morning